Welcome to the Magnum Report. I'm your host, Mark Magnum, and before I get started, I would like to say please like, subscribe, share, do all the things you're supposed to do and help support this channel because it is greatly appreciated. Now, my topic for today is the top 10 best WWE Intercontinental Champions of all time. Now, let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. At number 10, I've got the Ultimate Warrior. Now, he's a two-time Intercontinental Champion, and both of his title reigns ironically lasted 215 days. So there's a fun stat to share with some of your friends out there. And he was the first guy to ever hold the Intercontinental and the WWE, or at that time, WWF championship at the same time. So that's a huge feather in his cap. Wasn't the greatest wrestler, but from the late 80s to the early 90s, Ultimate Warrior was a staple of WWE, and he was very important to that late golden era in WWE. So as much as I don't like him as a wrestler per se, got to give him some credit. So let's go into our next one at number 9, and that is Don Muraco. He's a former two-time Intercontinental Champion. His first title reign lasted 155 days, and his second title reign lasted 384. And when you think of some of his rivalries with Pedro Morales and just some of the guys he went with back in the day, he was a great Intercontinental Champion. He's one of the longest reigning Intercontinental Champions with his combined reign, so he's got that to go, that going for him as well. And I just always liked Don Muraco. He was just one of those guys I don't feel like gets enough credit when you talk about some of the great ones from back in the day. So got to give my tip of the cap to Don Muraco. Now we're going into number 8, and my number 8 is The Rock. Now, not the Rocky Maivia version of The Rock, pineapple hair. We ain't talking about that Rock. I'm talking about the Nation of Domination Rock. That's the Rock I'm talking about. But like I said, he was a former two-time Intercontinental Champion, and his rivalry with Ken Shamrock was gold. That was like a great rivalry for The Rock to establish him as a solid, definite, believable heel. So I just love that time frame from that Royal Rumble that year into that WrestleMania 14 when those guys just had those series of matches, and of course that infamous chair shot that The Rock hit Ken Shamrock with in the head. I mean, those are just iconic moments that if you were a fan back at that time, you remember to this day. Now let's go into number 7, and I spoke of him earlier, but we'll speak of him again, and that is Pedro Morales. Pedro Morales is my number 7, and he's a two-time Intercontinental Champion. His first reign lasted 193 days, and his second reign lasted 424 days. He was the first Latino to hold this title. So that's just a huge thing for him, especially back in those days, back in the early 80s and stuff, to where things were just starting to change a little bit in that regard. So it's just great to see that a guy that's accomplished, a former WWE champion anyway. Pedro Morales did it all, former tag team champion. He was a Triple Crown winner, if you want to look at it that way back in those days, because those were the titles that were available. So Pedro Morales is very important, especially to the Latino community, and the fact that he's the first guy to hold major gold in both categories, WWE, and Intercontinental, just a huge feather in his cap as well. Now, number 6, much as I don't like this guy, number 6 is Chris Jericho. He's got the most Intercontinental title reigns of all time at 9. Like I said, not the biggest fan, but I got to give the devil his due. I mean, he's on my list, so I got to give him that. With 9 title reigns, he's got to be on my list. So I'll give him a little tip of the cap there. Now, we're going into number 5, and we're starting to get into the good stuff now. Number 5 is Razor Ramon. Yes, the bad guy, Chico, Razor Ramon himself. He is a former 4-time Intercontinental Champion, and that at the time was a record. So it was huge at that moment, and especially in that mid 90s, from 94, 95, 96, Razor Ramon was the guy when it came to the Intercontinental Championship. He might trade it back with Shawn Michaels, or Diesel might take it from him, but somehow Razor Ramon, even that last title reign he had when somehow he won it from Dean Douglas in a kind of a weird situation, Razor Ramon was always in the title picture. Should have been more, I feel like, in the WWE title picture, but as an Intercontinental Champion, Razor Ramon was my guy back in the day growing up. Definitely a huge impact on what I thought about wrestling was because of Razor Ramon. So I got to give the bad guy some credit. And now into number 4, and this goes to Mr. Perfect. He's a two-time Intercontinental champion who held the title for a combined 404 days during his 2 title reigns. Man, Mr. Perfect, just one of those guys that was believable. The athlete that he was, all the vignettes from back in the day, from football to basketball to swimming to bowling, all the stuff that just showed he was the apex of an athlete. And it's a shame that he never really got any WWE Championship love in the aspect of winning the heavyweight title. But Mr. Perfect, solid champion, definitely made that title a workhorse title. And speaking of somebody that made that title a workhorse title, I'm going into my number 3, and that is Bret the Hitman Hart. Yes, indeed, the excellence of execution. He is a former 2-time Intercontinental champion, and he held that title for 288 days combined during both of those reigns. So he had a significant hold on the title for a little bit. That match with him and Piper, I believe that was at WrestleMania 8. But that match they had at that WrestleMania was just a classic match where both guys started off babyface. Piper kind of went heelish, but at the end, shaked his hand, showed him some love, because Bret Hart is just one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. Now, into my number 2, and this goes to one of my favorites, the man, Macho Man, Randy Savage is my number 2, and he only held the title 1 time, but held that title for 414 days, and that match with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat at WrestleMania 3, those two tore the house down. I know there's going to be some people, oh, well, that match was, they talked about it, and Macho Man had it all written down. Who cares? The fact that they remembered all that and executed all that, as a guy that used to do this stuff, just remembering a few spots is hard enough. When you've got it to where you've got 200-300 moves you've got put together, or whatever it was, I'm telling you right now, the fact that they pulled that off, I'll give them credit until the end of time. And Macho Man, he's my all-time favorite anyway, so there's a little bit of bias going on there anyway, so it is what it is. But now we'll go into my number 1, and that goes to the Ring General, Gunther. And he held that title once for 666 days. Man, he made this Intercontinental title mean something. After 10 to 15 years of that title just getting passed around, from Kofi to Miz to Dolph to whoever held it at the time, Jericho, all these different guys, John Morrison, I can keep on going on. But they finally got to a point with Gunther where it wasn't getting traded around, where it wasn't getting swapped out every other week or every other month or every other pay-per-view, or to do a hot angle, none of that. Gunther held on to that title, made it finally mean something, made that title finally start main eventing shows. Granted, some of that time was during Roman's time as the undisputed champion and all that, to where Roman wasn't on the show as much, to where you had to showcase another title, but Gunther made that title mean something. It was important when Gunther had a match. It was important that Gunther was beating people down, and the guys he did, to Chad Gables and the Sami Zayns, and just all the different guys that Gunther wrestled during that time as Intercontinental champions, his matches with Ricochet, some of the greatest matches, all the stuff that Gunther was doing, I feel like just solidified him as a top level competitor. And that's why it kind of ushered him into the World Heavyweight title. Granted, I don't think they're making him that important as the World Heavyweight champion right now, but that's a topic for another podcast. But I want to know, what do you guys think? What's your top 10? Who do you guys got it? Do I got something wrong? Did I miss somebody? You let me know. And before I get off, for just one more time, please like, subscribe, share, and just make sure you check out all my content on the page. I appreciate all the love, and I appreciate you guys subscribing and watching these videos. But I'm out of here. This is another edition of the Magnum Report. Hey.